Welcome. Hello. Welcome. Come on in. Hey, thanks for being here today. I appreciate you taking time for this, and I'm looking forward to this. I've been pumped about this all day. Pardon me. And if you're watching the replay, you matter too. So thank you. Um, but those of you who are live, like you get the live energy. Like that's always the benefit. Um, so how this is going to go, just to kind of like just set the tone a little bit real quick, is that I want to just like set the stage for just a few minutes. I'm not going to take a long time. I want to set the stage for just a few minutes and share a bit about the current like the client success that I've had recently with group coaching programs, and then I'll talk specifically about like there's a couple ways. Like I'm just going to be very upfront with you and tell you like, hey, here's a couple ways that my clients are getting results, and then here's a couple ways that if you want more of those results, you can work with me. But even if you don't work with me, we're going to spend the rest of our time, most of our time today, on Q&A. So like if you're trying to like figure out like is a group coaching program right for your business? How do you start a group coaching program? What the heck is a group coaching program? Any of those questions, be happy to answer those, or other questions. You're not limited to that script. But first and foremost, hi, I'm John Neese. I think you know that because you're here and you're listening to me. I appreciate that. What I am the author of a few different books, and I help smart professionals like you turn your wisdom into wealth by building a thriving online education business from scratch. Now, that's something I've done for close to a decade in different forms or fashions, but honestly, most of that time I was doing it the hard way. Most of the last decade, I was focusing on like, all right, you got to crank out social media content, build an email list, and you got to build that email list. You got to launch you got to launch like a $47 course, and then you got to do a big book launch and make no money, and then you got to like do affiliate stuff. And I did all the things you're supposed to do, and I taught thousands of other people how to do those things too, and I've had lots of great success stories along the way. But man, that was really challenging and really hard. And so I did everything backwards. I thought it made sense. Start at the bottom, you sell like a little $7 ebook, and then like a $47 course, and then a $247 course, and then a $50 a month membership, and then come out with a premium group coaching program. But once I learned how to sell premium programs like a mastermind or a group coaching program or an accelerator of some kind, then I realized that the only reason I didn't start there was because two things. One, I didn't know how. And two, I was scared. Now, I was scared, hid behind, you can't do that. You got to do the low product first. But really, I was scared. And so once I just owned that, I leaned into really spending the last 2 years trying to master how do you create and sell high ticket programs, even if you don't have other products first. Because the question was like, wait a minute, what if you could do this first? Like, what if, because everybody who gets involved in online education business, you have something else that demands your time. It's either full-time family commitments, or it's some sort of medical thing, or it's a full-time day job. And so to do that, and then to try to go straight to building a six-figure or seven-figure online education business on the side, it's exhausting and ends up draining a lot of your life. And a lot of people burn out or go broke and give up. So what if instead you could earn a six-figure income from a program that requires one 90-minute meeting on your calendar once a week, and then now all of a sudden you can buy back your time from anything else that's keeping you from that so that you can scale further. That's what I've been focused on for the last couple of years. I personally invested, I should probably total this up exactly, but more than $30,000 in other people's programs to learn how it's done. I learned a lot of techniques that I do not recommend, a lot of like really like manipulative ways to get people to buy that I just didn't sit well with me. But I thought I gotta learn from other people who are doing this. Then I went on a personal quest to refine and take everything I've learned and combine it with what I've already done through course and membership sales and create my own process for how to sell a group coaching program in a way that like really honors the person that the people that you're talking to, whether or not they become customers, because one of my core philosophies is to always be teaching, even if they're not a customer. And so I wanted to be congruent with that. And so I developed this process, this framework that I call serve call, and it's a core part of, it's not the only thing I teach, but it's a core part of how I sell. And I then did over 100 serve calls personally. And along the way, I started teaching other people how to use hand raisers and serve calls and showcases and boot camps to create and sell group coaching programs to their own audience. We just crossed a milestone that's just crazy to say this out loud because 2 years ago I knew nothing about high ticket sales. But we just crossed a milestone where my clients have earned more than $1 million from group coaching programs in the last year collectively, which is insane and awesome. And I'm just like, I love it. Like I love that because so many of these people, everybody's going through their program is also getting their life changed. So these are people whose business models has changed dramatically, and that's led to other people going through their program and their life changing dramatically. So instead of just saying like these people or these clients, I've actually asked a couple clients to share their experience, just to kind of set the stage and tone for today. So Mike Vardy is one of those. He's right here in Zoom with us. And so, Mike, I actually would love it if you would just share a bit about your background before we start working together in terms of like group coaching or otherwise. And then I know you're in my program right now, so you haven't even finished or graduated yet. But it'd be helpful if you would just share a bit about kind of like where you were coming into this and then where you are now in the process of launching and scaling your own group coaching program.
So thanks, John.
Yeah.
Thanks for inviting me to talk about this because I've been in business for quite a while, but I always started with the tripwire product, right? Like the low, that kind of thing. And I've been coaching for a while too, one-on-one. I've only recently started to explore group coaching in the last, couple of years. And I found that it's really tricky for me to it's been really tricky for me to kind of put all of that into a package, right? Like I didn't my thought was let's introduce people and bring them along the way and then ultimately get them to that high ticket item. But what was happening is when I was working with one-on-ones, I was finding that they were getting a lot of impact out of it and they were getting a lot of value out of it. It was over delivering and under promising in a lot of ways, and I wanted to bring that to the group model. But I just wasn't getting the people that I was hoping for. I wasn't, for lack of a better term, closing. And I don't consider myself to be a salesperson, although I've read tons of posts and books on this, trying to get my head wrapped around it, but nothing really registered with me. And I've known John for a few years now, but when John mentioned to me that you've got this way that you can help people through this accelerator and all these, that to me was compelling because number one, I trust John. Number two, I like your John's approach. I always have. And so I thought I'd look into it a little bit deeper. And when John offered me the opportunity to, be part of his group accelerator program, I jumped at the chance because the way that John presented it to me, I'm like, this I think might unlock something for me. And it has. Even in the first couple of weeks of the program, when I was booking calls with people, just the verbiage that I was using, just the formula that John has, it felt more like me, more natural. It unlocked something that really wasn't there before. It made me want to go on those calls as opposed to run away from those calls. It made me want to do more of that stuff. And the clarity that John has allowed me to, just by, kind of going through this process with him, the clarity of my program, really refining it, first defining it and then refining it, really put me in a position to start to have success almost right out of the gate because this is the time of year as a productivity and time management person where people are looking for that stuff. They want to finish the year strong and start the year even stronger. So I already started my cohort in the midst of this accelerator and I filled it up, which was surprising to me because I'd never done that before in such a short time span and in a way that I felt good about it and also not devaluing my services in the process because I've had a propensity to do that over the years as well. Right now, I'm in the process of working on the April version of my cohort as well as the January. So I've already got two that are kind of scheduled and mapped out, and I've been doing calls even during the holiday time here. I'm in Canada, so we don't really have the Thanksgiving holiday. So I was kind of like just going along for the ride with a lot of the people who I work with who are American. And I've already sold two spots for the January and two spots for the April. So just by following John's training and the formulas that he's given, the resources, it's been super helpful, and it has literally put me in a position to not just have a stronger vibe going into sales calls or what have you, or calling, even engaging with my email subscribers in a one-on-one environment like this, but also it's made my holidays a bit more relaxing because I brought in more money than I thought I would have. So, that's been a bonus as well. So, I'm not even on the program yet, as John pointed out, and I'm already seeing benefits of it. So, thank you, John, for number one. When John said, "Hey, would you want to come on and talk about it?" I'm like, absolutely, because it's already been a game changer for me.
Thank you, Mike, for sharing that. I appreciate that. And I hope you'll hang around, Mike, because I want to give people a chance to ask questions to you too. This is something I wish more people did, because I'll buy other people's programs and like I learn from other people too. And there's usually like some sort of talking head who has a thing, and you're like, is it a good idea? Do I want to work for them? Do I want to learn from them? And I wish more people brought their customers into Q&As, and so that's why I do it. And so now when I do a Q&A, I always have a customer or two. Another customer or two may pop in throughout. Some other people send videos, couldn't be here live. But one thing I want to emphasize that, Mike, you reminded me of when you were just sharing your story, was that so many of us, when we get interested in online education in the first place, like selling courses, selling books, selling memberships, what we want, honestly, is we want to sell one-to-many products. And we want to earn what my friend Dan Miller calls Swiss dollars, or sales while I sleep soundly, right? We want to earn Swiss dollars. Like, that's really the dream. So I do want to call it out right out of the gate that, like, a group coaching program is not exactly Swiss dollars. Now, I was sleeping soundly the night when I woke up and saw that $4,000 in payment plans and deposits had come through while I was sleeping. But these were all people that I had spoken to. And so there is definitely an element of like, it's not the same thing as selling a lot of passive products, like passive income. It's not passive income, but it is leveraged income. And it specifically is a way, it's leveraged income and it's leveraged impact. What I've found now that I've been doing this for a couple of years is that if you get really good at going from like one-on-one to one-to-few, you can then become really, really good at selling one-to-many products. So some of my clients who already have courses and books and memberships, and then have started working with me to create a group coaching program, because it involves time where you're spending live on a Zoom call like this with clients, with humans, with people, with talking to them, and because I have a process for how you take what people say and turn that into basically like an insights that run your business. So the customer's running your business. You're just the leader at the helm. Those clients I've had that have done that, that's been able to like increase sales in all of their products, not just their group coaching program. So we're gonna get into questions in just a moment. First, I want to do just a quick, don't worry, this is not like a long slide presentation, but I want to show you a couple things about there's a couple ways that products that I offer in my business, because I want you to be able to ask questions about either group coaching in general or about the programs that I specifically have in terms to help you launch a group coaching program, because I want us to be able, you'd have the freedom in the Q&A to ask questions about either one of those. So go over here quick. This is it's called my 6-figure flagship accelerator program. This is my core program, the program Mike's in, the program he talked about. This right here, which you'll learn, it's called your 10x promise. This is a core part of the whole sales strategy for a group coaching program. My program is focused on helping you earn $10,000 or more per month from your own flagship product with 0 social media posts or paid ads. That's essentially the core of what I do. Now, how do we do that? We do that really with a couple different things. So we first launch your group coaching program with a 10x promise of your own at a premium price. I always recommend starting at least $2,000 as the core price of the program. I have clients who charge as much as $15,000 for the program. I do have clients who charge as low as $1,000, even though I advise them against it. But I find that when you create a program that's here's the wet clay I usually recommend you start with. Design a program that's a $2,000 program limited to 5 people at a time over 60 days. So $2,000 each, 5 people, 60 days. That's the wet clay I recommend starting with. Now, plenty of people have more people in their cohorts, or it's longer than 60 days or shorter, or have a higher price point, and that's totally fine. But I think it's helpful to start there, because a lot of times when I'm working with somebody, they have an idea of what they're going to teach, and then I'm like, okay, you're going to charge $2,000. And if they were already thinking at a lower price point, now all of a sudden it forces them to raise the bar of what are you actually delivering to the person on the other side, and how are you helping them? But then our goal is to sell out your founding member program. That's also why it's limited to 5 people, is because we want you to be a sold out coach. So now all of a sudden your program is sold out. Now you can then open another cohort for another 5 people or 10 people, but you're coming from a place of strength as a teacher and as a coach when you do that. It makes it a lot easier to sell out future cohorts. It also means you're going to get some really good case studies from that first group. And then the kind of the third step to that is to build a repeatable system so that you're doing this consistently. You're earning at least $10,000 per month from your group coaching program. In my accelerator program, it's a 10-week program where I work with 10 clients at a time, and I guide you through this whole process. We do personal serve call training. So serve call is one of the core strategies we use to sell, and I actually like take recordings of the serve call and like review that and give people feedback on how to improve. And then also give a toolbox of like some of the templates Mike was talking about, of like, how do you reach out to somebody who you think is a potential customer? How do you close the sale? How do you get them interested? Because I've had so much success with this program over the last year, I recently added this, which is crazy, but it works, which is my 10K or more guarantee, which is that if you do join my program and if you show up and do the work, I guarantee you will earn at least $10,000 or more during the accelerator, or I'll coach you for free until you do. So that's, I mean, that's something I couldn't add when I first started, but now that we've had so many of these success stories over and over again, Andrew went from 0 program to sold out in 5 weeks. And by the way, these are all videos. I'll probably play one of these in a little bit, but first I'll pop a link in the chat in a second to the slide deck if you want to take this and look at this later on your own. Shawn Blanc, who may pop in a minute, he earned 10 times his investment. He went from crickets. He was actually trying for a year to sell his program and was not having luck. And then he's now sold out his program twice. And whereas I told you my recommendation is 5 people per cohort, Shawn is a crazy person and I love him. And he does 25 people per cohort and he sold out twice. So, and he also doubled his price. It was first program was 2,000. Now it's, I think, 4,500, I think is actually his new price. Jill, who's a marriage coach, launched her own group coaching program, made 25,000. Mike, another crazy person. I tend to attract these. I don't know why, but probably something about myself. Mike is also another wonderful, crazy person in that he actually has an email list, but he thought, what if I just didn't tell them about my group coaching program? And what if I just used everything John was teaching me? And I had a speaking event coming up and I helped him tweak his talk. And from that one stage, he got 70 people to essentially raise their hand and become leads for his program. And then he did one follow-up Q&A like this and sent one email and sold out his program just from that. And then he told the email list that that his program was already sold out and he hadn't even told them about it. ST totally rebranded her business because of her group coaching program and got clients who ignored her before to pay attention. Dustin, he now earns over $100,000 per quarter from his program, and he has 592 email subscribers. So, which for anybody in the email list, that's small. Like that's considered a small list. So I could go on. Here's the skinny of my program. So this is not like a really super pitch, as you can see. I'm just like telling you the details so we can have a conversation. But I only take on 10 clients at a time. Right now, I have 7 clients already booked for January, which means I actually only have 3 slots available for new clients. But if you already know you want to do that, or if at some point during today's conversation you decide you want to do that, you just go to sixfigureflagship.com, you pay $1,000 deposit, and you're in. Then you and I meet one-on-one. We have a personal success strategy, map out your whole strategy for what's going to happen next. Then I offer a 0-fee payment plan for the rest of the balance if you wish to do that. And then the 100% ROI guarantee that I already mentioned. So I'd love to just kind of pause for a minute and just ask like what questions you have about group coaching or my programs in general. And let me say programs is plural. Let me actually real quick to show you this too. Most of my focus for the last couple of years has been this accelerator program, but I recently added a group coach bootcamp where it's essentially what I've taken is like what I do out of like the 10-week accelerator program. I've taken that and I've taken out what's the 20% that drives 80% of the results. What's the core stuff you need to get started so you can have like a one and done system all at once. And that's what I teach at Group Coach Bootcamp. That is a one-day workshop. So right now, I actually just had somebody back out for December because of a family crisis. And so right now I have 2 spots left for this Friday, which is crazy if you join that at the last minute, but also I like working with crazy people who want to help and serve. So come on in. But then I also have a group coach bootcamp also still in January where there's currently 5 spots left. And that's something where we focus on creating a system to fill your first coaching group with 5 of your ideal clients, each paying you $2,000 or more with 0 paid ads or high pressure sales. So I'm going to take questions, but before we do that, I just saw a name pop up over here and I think Shawn, you're here. How's it going?
Hey, what's up?
Hey, Shawn. So Mike's here, who you know. And Mike just shared a bit about his experience. And then I didn't play your video, but I did at least kind of show the thumbnail saying like Shawn was one of the people who's gone through my program, has had great results. We're about to transition to Q&A about group coaching in general and about my program specifically. I would love to know if there's anything on your heart that you want to share in terms of what the impact has been on your business or your life by adding a group coaching program to your business in the time that we've worked together.
Yeah.
Do you want to share a bit about that?
I'd be happy to share, and then I'm happy to answer any questions anyone has too about my stuff. I'll frame it in this context for me, like as a business owner, I've been doing stuff for about 12 years now, and we made a huge shift in our business model about 2 years ago, where we went from doing one-off course sales that we were charging 20 to 30 bucks for, to wanting to transition to the higher ticket group coaching, a membership community.
And that transition, it took us 2 years to get here. And I was kind of like at the last edge of like, I don't know if this is going to work this summer. And like the business was just, I'm like, I don't know if we're going to make it. And it was just really, really tight. And I spent more with John than any other like business coach or program that I've gone through. And I've been through stuff with like Ryan Dice and Ramit Sethi, Brennan Dunn. I'm trying to think of a few others, which have all been phenomenal. And I've loved all those programs. Those have been helpful. John's stuff was like, I spent more with you than any of those guys. And then I like spent more on top of that. And the shift for me from the beginning of working with you, John, this summer to then where we're at now it's literally night and day. And so the like getting the business, like I realized like I just didn't know how to sell like what the business I was trying to build. I didn't know how to do it. So I had for me personally, I had an old business model or an old selling model with a new business model and for 18 months. And so going through your program with the group coach stuff and giving me the just the tools to like figure out how to sell that better, it like has like revolutionized the business. So like we just had our best month in 2 years, November, like wrapping that up. And a huge part of that was just being able to reframe the higher ticket stuff that we're doing and then look at all the products that we had. I just had so many products and simplifying stuff and giving me the courage to kind of like really niche down and focus on what we're actually doing. And then I've had all these just phenomenal sales calls with people. So I sold out my first program right out of the gate. I sold it out. I've got my next one in January that right now is 75% sold out with like the remaining spots, a bunch of people that are still kind of, I'm waiting to hear back from. So I know that January will sell out for sure as well. So I made back like close to 10x the investment for me. I made it back within like 90 days. But what's more helpful for me has just been the fact that like I have a business, I know how to run it now. I have a selling model that matches my business model, which for me has been so liberating and so helpful. So that's kind of been my experience. I loved working with you, John. A lot of these other groups I've been through, they're like, here's 50 things and pick the one that you want. And then like, there you go. And John's stuff, it's so simple. It's like frustratingly simple. And that, but like in a good way. Like it was frustrating for me because it's like all my stuff is so complicated. John's stuff is so simple. Why isn't my stuff simple? Because simple actually works, and it actually like it clicked over for me. So I'm a big fan. Highly recommend it, and I'm happy to answer any questions, good or bad, if anyone has has about this stuff. So
Thank you, Shawn. I appreciate you sharing that. I'm so glad to see that, not just the impact it's had on your business, but also just on you. Like I know you're talking about like financial things, but you're also talking about like peace of mind and like employing a team and supporting your family. And like Mike Vardy, like you were saying a minute ago about just like Christmas is a little more lax this year because of this. So like that's awesome. And so what I love about my business is I get to work with incredibly talented people like you, but I also get to like have this like second or third degree impact of like everybody that you're impacting. I get a little credit for, at least in my own mind, of like the kind of impact that they're, as you're changing people's lives. I'm just honored to be part of it. So I want to open it up to everybody who's here live to ask a question. So thank you, Josh, for not only being the coach where it says coach in your name, but also giving the example of exactly what I'm about to ask, which is if you have a question you want to ask live, please use the raise your hand function. It makes it it helps us maintain some semblance of order as we get into this. So yeah, Josh, what's your question? And it could be for Mike, Shawn, me, or the room, And I will wait, real quick before you do that. Here's my disclaimer. Mike and Shawn are not paid to be here. They volunteered. I asked them to do me a favor, and I have no idea what they're going to say. So now go for it.
First of all, thanks for the invite. This is super cool that you're doing this and tons of resources here just by being here. So I appreciate that. Happy to share whatever's useful in talking about my market or what I'm looking to do here. But I'm at the point where I've already decided to do this. I'm targeting February for a kickoff. And I feel like I don't have that sticky, like this is what you'll get with your return, like $10,000, like you recoup it. It's more of like I've identified a common theme of my network here, something that will resonate. And I'm just kind of like, do I need that, or how should I be thinking of that?
Yeah, so there's a lot of ways to talk about like the language that I use to describe what you're talking about, like what you get is the 10x promise. And I will say that is the most important part of this entire process. And it's deceptively simple because it's one sentence, but it literally every sales strategy I teach is based around the 10x promise. Shawn, you want to share something there?
Yeah, I felt the same way, Josh, and I
Yeah.
don't have that still, and I haven't had any problems with selling my program. So, coming out of John's first one, I sold my group, which is interesting too. Like, I've been trying to sell my group coach for a year, and I sold out a private like beta last year, and then it was just crickets for like 9 months, and I just didn't know what to do. And then I went through John's thing, and then I sold out like the first one like right out the gate. So I charged $2,000 for it, per John's recommendation. I was like, I'm just gonna trust what he says. But I didn't have the money promise. So what I do, I work with agency owners that want to run their full-time business on a part-time schedule. And so that's just the promise. I was like, hey, are you like feeling overwhelmed? You want to get clear on like how to run this thing better? And for everybody, that was enough. I wasn't like, I'll help you get back, 10 times your money or whatever. It was just because the promise was clear enough, like they were able to do the math in their head for like what that meant for them. So I sold that one out, and then so many people were interested in it. So I doubled my price for the January one, and it like nobody blinked at that. It was just as easy to sell it at 4,000 as it was at 2,000 with that same, I don't have a money promise. It's a time promise. But for business owners, time is
Mike, you want to say that?
Yeah, Shawn and I are like, we both actually, we know each other quite well. We've known each other for a long time because we're both kind of in the same arena. But this year I've niched down because I'm a night owl, and my 10x promise is, get your most meaningful work done without fighting your body clock. So again, it's the equation of, well, what does that mean to somebody who is kind of stigmatized because they're a night owl? And what's interesting, and I'll share this really quickly because it was rather humbling. I actually messaged Shawn about this last week. Was I actually gave one of my serve calls to John, the sales calls, to kind of critique, and I didn't do very well with that one. However, the next one I did, which I just did, I think it was like last Thursday. I was clearer about it. I went in with a more relaxed, focused tone, and I sold it. I sold a spot for it. Just so the thing is that I think also the 10x promise, and to Shawn's point, like still dialing some of that stuff in. There's still an evolutionary process to it, but without that kind of critique was super helpful. But also just reflecting it back on me and seeing that stuff, I was able to actually serve the right person and go into those calls with the right mindset, which allowed me to then close, which I didn't. It's not like I went in there going, well, there's, I didn't feel the pressure or the anxiety that I normally would have, which I think is the biggest freeing part of the whole scenario for me at this juncture. So that was huge for me.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that, Mike and Shawn. And I'm going to say there, like, yes, you don't have to have a financial, like a dollar sign in your promise at all, but you do have to have specificity of something they want. So you see Shawn and Mike's examples are both like aspirational to their target customer. And that's really key. It's like, it's not about what you want, it's about what they want. You want to sell them what they want and then give them what they need. And so the whole process that I teach, like we've talked a lot about serve calls today. The idea, I've always had a problem with the whole term sales call because like I care a lot about words. And like by its very nature, if you have a meeting with somebody and it's a sales call and you don't close a sale, it was a failure, right? Like if like you didn't, like that always bugged me. And so that's one of the reasons why I refocused on serve calls, where the idea is like, no, every single time I have a serve call, it's valuable. Because you walk away, I have served you. And that's the goal. And then as part of that, it's an invitation for you to join your program. And so I do also teach like strategically how to use that to sell your program. But if they say no, that doesn't mean it was a failure. That means it was a learning opportunity. And usually when they say no, they give you some reason, which helps you refine your 10x promise or your program in some way. Because my 10x promise has changed probably a dozen times in the couple of years that I've been selling my program. So yeah, Josh, does that answer your question? Does that help you kind of think through this? Yeah,
that's good to hear. But what I'm taking away is that not necessarily financially specific, but like a simple sentence of something that they want and super concise and clear.
Yeah, and if I could give you just like a fill in the blank ad lib for it, which is not enough, but it's a good place to start, which is basically just, accomplish result without roadblock. It's like, what's the result they want in their life? And that's something that you have to get specific of. And it's not something you can just like, usually you create a rough draft and then you test it with people. That's usually how you refine it. And that's something I will say that's probably at the group coach bootcamp specifically, we spend over an hour of that bootcamp on nothing but your 10x promise, because that's like so foundational to this. And then it becomes every other sales strategy I teach really stems from that. You can create this on your own without working with me, but that is what we focus on.
It's interesting too. The 10x promise liberates the sales process. It has for me. Like, I don't technically teach people how to run their business on a part-time schedule. That's almost like the whatever, like that's the byproduct of going through the program that I do. But it's like that's the biggest pain point. But what I found then is like when I'm on calls with people, it's like it's this galvanizing sentence that like sort of like gets people's attention and gets them interested in. I'll have calls with people where I'm like, oh, you're like this one guy I just talked to, he's retired. He's a retired agency owner who has taken the entire year off. And so we were talking, I was like, oh, this is like, he doesn't need my thing. Like he's already like literally doesn't work anymore. And so he was like, hey, I know you do that group program thing. What is it about? And I was like, oh, well, helping agency owners run their business on a part-time schedule. And he goes, that sounds really interesting. I'd like to sign up for that. I was like, you literally don't work right now, but because the other elements to it, like that support that it brought them in. And anyways, so the 10X promise is so helpful. So I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Yeah. And just to give that example, Shawn's a great example of this too, like that it requires an identity shift. And that's one of the things too, that I love about leading with your flagship product, like a coaching program, is you're raising the bar for everybody involved. Like no one's going to pay you $2,000 to waste their time. And so all of a sudden, like you're raising the bar for everyone involved, or no one's going to pay me $10,000 to waste their time. like that's just like what you need to do is you're asking people to literally go all in with you in such a way that they're changing their identity. And so like Mike Pacquione, who's not here, but he's another client, like I mentioned, his 10X promise is that he will help you create an unforgettable signature talk that helps you earn instant trust with any audience. They're like, man. That's old me. I think Mike Vardy, aren't you in his program too? I think,
yeah.
But yeah. So like, you're like, that's what I want. I am me today versus me once, the imaginary version of me that has an unforgettable signature talk that's going to earn instant trust with any audience. That is a different version of me that I want to be when I grow up, right? Like that's the 10X promise that we're selling. So happy to answer any of the questions. I'd love to hear what questions you have for Mike or Shawn or me, and how I can help.
John, is it okay if I do a part 2 real quick?
Yeah, until somebody else raises their hand, it's all you, Josh. Go for it.
I'm okay doing that because I feel like other people might have this question too. I've been talking to Dustin about this, and he recommended like for the beta, like the first course, almost offer like he didn't call it this, but my perception of a discount, and that goes against all my coaching instincts. So just your guys' view of like offering the reduced amount, and then like second course, you can offer what you think it's actually worth.
Yeah, well. Do you guys want to?
I charged more for my beta.
Yeah,
I love that.
That's true. You did.
Yeah, I charged $6,000 for it, and the promise was like you get extended access to me for a couple months after the program wraps up. So I did that, but of course, then at the same time, I had a hard time selling it again. So who knows? It's not cut and dry, but I charged more.
So I have a community already that I run, a membership community called Time Crafting Trust. And inside that community, I added the benefit of what do we call coaching credits to that community. So the thing is I'm from that. I mean, the idea of discounting is just something we hear about. Well, somebody on this call, I'm pointing to other way, that way.
Yeah.
This guy right here.
Yeah, over here.
Said, you might want to try a different strategy, and I did. And by doing that, well, first off, people were buying it without those credits. They weren't part of the community. But by offering some coaching credits, it didn't devalue the offer per se.
Yeah.
It just made them feel like, oh, I better use these kind of things. So I would, by the way, never would have thought of that either. I was so firmly entrenched in my head that this is how you do it. But what it's also done as a side effect is, and this was not the intent, but people have joined the community because they may get some coaching credits. So in some instances, they weren't ready. They were able to go, oh, well, I'm not ready for this right now, especially the one that I'm running over the holiday season. There are people like, it's too busy, it's too this, it's too that, but I will become a member, and that way I get those. And so, which was not what I was trying to sell on that call, but it worked out that way. So, I mean, it kind of opens up your mind, right? Like to your point, right?
Yeah, let me just land that plane. Thank you, Mike. That's a great example of like, it's all about positioning. Like I think that I would never use the phrase discount attached to a coaching program personally. But what I would do, I would have exclusive founding member pricing, or I would have like like for example, like with Mike, he was going to discount. He's like, oh, people who are in my membership program, I'm going to give them a discount on the coaching. I was like, no, we don't discount it, but they have a coaching credit that expires on December 31st. And so like, like it, and then now all of a sudden it's literally the exact same outcome, but it's a totally different positioning. And so, yeah, I mean, my general advice is to start at the gate with 2,000, but that's general. Like you can totally tweak that for your niche. And so like Dustin, as an example, he started with, I think his first cohort was $7,500. And that worked out well for him. If I remember correctly, it was $700, but he had like an early bird pricing of 5,000. And so I think most of his first clients, I think, paid 5,000. And then he raised the price to 7,500 and then 10,000. And now his program is 12,500. I'm definitely a fan of raising the price over time. People have told me I should raise my price more. I have someone who I will not name who has a program that's almost identical to mine, but much less effective, that charges $25,000 for the exact same program that I teach. But several of my clients are actually people who went through his program and got no results. So, including Dustin. And so yeah, that's like a whole other thing. It's like people are like, well, you can charge more. I'm like, there's a point. I think there's a point where you're like, no, this is right. Like if I can charge you $10,000 and I can help you earn $10,000 during the 10 weeks, and then also help you create a system so you can do that repeatedly, I feel good about that. Now all of a sudden we're talking about a 10x ROI. We're like Shawn's already had 10x ROI, and I have other clients like. I guess Dustin's had a lot more than that. He's like a 50x ROI so far, but still, like it's like, like that's. I feel good about that. I feel good about that pricing. And I'm not saying I'll never raise in the future, but right now I'm like, no, this feels right. Yeah. Paul, what's your question?
I've got a couple of questions. Well, first one is,
Yeah.
quite often in the group coaching model, it's like it's a moderator and other people like giving advice and like trading secrets and things like that and trying to get you to the next level. Are you in this concept? Are you more teaching us and telling us what to do next, or group thinking on what the group thinks would be a great idea for the next step?
Yeah, so it sounds like what to me you're describing like a sort of like a typical like mastermind group, like which is not the same thing. I definitely like when I group coaching, I have a mastermind group. Shawn's in it. I have a mastermind group. That's a separate thing. But for my accelerator program, and for what I teach for group coaching program is like let's have a start to finish curriculum where you are the coach, you are the guide. There's a goal, and there is going to be more of a community element to it over time because there is a group. And so personally, like the first couple of weeks that I'm teaching, I try to dominate the conversation intentionally. Of like I'm leading the conversation, I'm guiding people, I'm teaching people, and coaching. And as each week goes by, I create more space for group discussion and feedback because it also helps everybody else in the program apply what they learn. Basically, like if you get to the point where you can actually teach other people in the group, now all of a sudden you're starting to like internalize it. So Mike, thank you so much for sharing your surf call with our group so that we could like play a video clip of Mike's surf call as transcript, and everybody was like, all right, what's wrong? Sorry, Mike, but like what's wrong? And like everybody got to share, and like they became smarter because of it. And they were like, oh my gosh, I did the same thing. I just realized. So in my program, which is not different. I mean, every program is a little bit different, but in my program, it's 90 minutes per training. And I typically spend the first part of that, we're just sharing wins, checking in. I always have at least 30 minutes of like a core training and then Q&A about that topic of like, here's a tool, here's a framework, here's a strategy. Let's have Q&A, make sure it's clear. And then we spend the rest of the time personalizing it to each person's business. And so that becomes more discussion style of like, I may be leading it and saying like, Shawn, here's how I'd apply that to your business. But then somebody else in the group might chime in and be like, oh, but have you thought about this? And that can be really helpful. But I think it's important as the coach that you do set the conversation up with a resource or tool or template for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Does that answer your question, Paul?
Yeah, very, very good.
Okay.
The other thing is there seems to have been a challenge for me is like doing weekly webinars and trying to get people into a meeting like this. I'm very impressed that you can get 4 or 5 newbies coming in on a webinar, because I've done these like week after week, inviting people on LinkedIn and everything, and then crickets. I just sit there in an empty room waiting, hopefully that somebody comes in. Is that part of? I mean, that must be one of the first things, is getting people to actually attend something like this to get them interested.
Well, I don't, Shawn, Mike, have you done a showcase yet? Yeah.
I did a showcase, with a couple people
Okay.
that came to it. The thing that's really helped me, John, I don't know what you've already talked with these folks about or what I'm allowed to say, but
you're allowed to say anything. Yeah.
Cool. The thing that really helped me was the way that John hits on this concept, which I knew it before, but again, I just was so frustrated at how simple John's stuff was and how complicated my stuff is. It was a holy frustration. And so the concept that you, instead of selling, and I'm going to say it wrong, time for money, it's a promise for a price or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And that click for me like translated to everything. So it's like, okay, when I do the serve calls or when I do the showcase strategies like this, I need to have a very clear, here's the promise that I'm giving for you. And so instead of going like, hey, I'm going to be there, won't it be cool if you came too? It was like, here's what you're going to get.
Yeah.
And so just trying to like dial that into all of my marketing, which I know in my head, but just a lot of it was just missing. So that has been helpful. And so being able to reach out to folks and say, hey, I'm doing a group program that happens in January. And I've got a lot of people that might be interested. I know some people want to have some questions answered. I don't know, John, what your marketing was that you sent to everybody that's here. But like, you guys just copied John's stuff. I just literally like ripped off his emails and put my name on them and changed the thing. Because it just helped me get out of my own head. So
yeah, thank you.
all
That's
that to
helpful.
say, I don't know if that answers your question, but
I'm
well,
in
let
the
me just
I'm in the process of getting my first showcase set up because
that's what this is for those.
yeah.
Just to make sure everybody else knows, you are on a showcase. It's one of the more advanced strategies I teach. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
But what I think is really valuable is I don't think I would have been able to do what I'm doing to get the showcase ready if I didn't go through the first few weeks already, right?
Yeah.
So getting that stuff dialed in. And when I put in the chat like time is money, I think what I mean by that is like going back to the 10x promise, people will often equate time with money, right? So that's the idea behind it. And so the promise for a price is it's a fundamental shift. And to Shawn's point, I've copied a lot of John's stuff because you're right. I get out of my own way, right? Because that's often what the problem is. So I've sent out one email just to identify the group, and there's a large group of night owls that seem to follow me, and that's the next step. Now, I mean, we're in the holiday season, so I'm being a bit mindful about when I do this. But I know now. See, that's the thing. I know now. I won't be waiting on crickets, Paul, when I do it. I know that now. I didn't know that before.
Yeah. But Shawn, I know you've got to go. I just want to honor your hard stop. Thank you for popping in. I appreciate it. And then and I also want to make sure, Paul, just to land that plane and make sure we fully answer your question. The vast majority of things I focus on at first is like let's literally make a list of like 10 people who are your target customer, and let's work on that relationship one-on-one. Selling at scale, which this is a showcase, is one of the strategies I teach of a showcase. It is a strategy for selling at scale that is very effective and like stupid simple. And if you go back and retrace my emails, what you'll find is that I never told you what day this was. I never told you what time it was. All I said is I'm hosting a Q&A about this promise. Are you interested? And if you replied, you have to add it to the calendar invite. There's plenty of people who like later got the calendar invite were like, wait a minute. I didn't know it was Tuesday at 3 p.m. I can make it that time. That doesn't matter. They said yes to the promise. Now I'm going to follow up with them and continue to follow up because they've already told me that they want what I'm offering. And so that's part of the whole strategy. It's like literally you're focusing everything around the promise. But that's a selling at scale more advanced strategy. Notice right now I'm telling you, hey, my program starts in January. I've got 3 spots left. Unless somebody's paid a deposit in the last 30 minutes. I haven't checked my phone. Then I've got 3 spots left. That's when showcases are actually more effective. It's when you've already gone through and like I've sold one-on-one, I sold 7 spots for January. And then now I'm just following up and doing selling at scale strategies to close the last 3 spots. And so that's something that is one of the things I teach. So yeah, you don't need a huge audience for this at all. Dustin, that so far is my most financially successful customer, specifically with group coaching programs, and he has like one of the smallest lists of any of my customers at 500 subscribers. So, I mean, he just stayed laser focused on group coaching and was just like, I'm just going to do that. And so I think that's a great example of what's possible there. But I also had clients who have had 0 email lists also sell programs directly, which is very possible. Because again, it's like you need like 10 leads. You line up like a list of 10 people you think might be a good fit, and then you use my framework and make it your own. And then you go get another 10, but 10 may be enough to close 5 seats. I know Andrew Connell, one of my clients who's never had a group coaching program before, he had a 60% close rate with leads when he started reaching out and was like shocked because he'd never done sales like in this way before. So Elizabeth, I want to make sure we get to your question. And Shawn, drop off whenever you want to drop off, but hang out as long as you want to hang out. Yeah, Elizabeth, what was your question?
Yeah, well, first I just want to say thanks to everybody who sort of shared their experience. I think more than anything, I've been curious, and as we're talking about how this whole process works, I am questioning myself, like, what about John's most recent message made me hop on this in the middle of my workday? Because I am, so don't tell my boss anybody, but I do have flexibility. So this actually worked out perfectly. But that was, you know, sort of one of my questions is I'm kind of starting from scratch. So for me, hopping on these is more of an accountability tool for myself.
Sure.
Just to say, I know I've wanted to do this for a few years since I was in John's actual co-working
Physical
space
co-working space. Yeah.
What he was doing. And have found endless reasons for why I can't, you know, figure out how to have the perfect opportunity. And I think this has really been helpful for me in just saying, like, look, it doesn't have to be perfect. You just need to find the right process and kind of get going. And I think, John, you answered the question for me, which was, you know, some of you have, you know, maybe smaller audiences, maybe larger, whatever the case may be. But that was sort of my question is, without like hounding my friends and family to be the ones, you know, kind of the first buy, like you would in a startup world, first money in, it's, you know, how do you frame this and then feel confident in going to a small group of people and saying, would you be my founding members? And for a little bit of context, what I'm looking to do is translate sort of the teaching I do. I teach communication courses. It's at the community college level right now, but there are a lot of people out in the workforce who could benefit from things that go beyond the homeworks, the record yourself speaking, but it's never in front of an audience. So how can I create something that really hits a gap in those soft skills that I hear employers talking about so often and wishing their employees had more of? And just utilizing the passion I have for that and sharing those skills with others. So I haven't, you know, I'm kind of starting from scratch. I'm still working through your other suggestions, John, and looking forward to the January sessions as well.
Yeah, the group coach bootcamp.
But that was one of my bigger questions was going from literally zero audience potentially.
Yeah.
You know, should you try and build something or just go out there and find people?
Yeah. So I mean, you just go out there and find people, but you should start with people you know. I know it's like I'm not saying like blast everybody, but like that's why you have to clear your target customer and the promise. But for example, taking like what you're talking about communications, I'm not saying this is your next promise. We'll workshop that at Group Coach Camp in January because I know you're registered for that a month from today. But like specifically, if you had a program that was called like Soft Skills CEO, that's like learn the soft skills that get successful executives into positions within highly sought after like company leadership roles, something like that. Like I just made that up. That's a rough draft. Do not like run with that completely. But you can see where immediately you're like, oh, now I just took what you said about like I can help you with your soft skills and your communications, and I gave it a valuable identity and an aspirational identity that's for some people is going to be aspirational. And so then it's a matter of going through, like literally go through your phone contacts, your LinkedIn contacts, your Facebook friends, whoever, and just make a list of like people you think might be interested, and then check if they're interested. I mean, and then I have different templates for like how you reach out to people and like, and to do it in an non-invasive way. You're not just like cold calling people or anything like that, but that can be a great way to test your offer. And so most of my clients who don't have a huge email list, they're typically filling their first group out of their personal network, and then they're getting into referrals. Like how do we like get case studies? Because an online education business is essentially, and Shawn Anthony said that this last week, he's like, if I was like a Hawaiian kind of gangster style punk version, he's like me, but like with that kind of filter. Like we have like very similar content and very similar philosophies, but like I do not speak or look like him or talk like him. But he shared this week that whole online education business, the whole thing is based off of just replicating case studies. I thought that was a really good insight, that it's like literally your goal with this program at first is get one case study of someone who's successful. And then you're designing a program where you can replicate that case study, and you're inviting other people to say like, would you like to be the next case study? And essentially like, if you just take away all the marketing tactics and techniques at the surface of the core, that's what it is. It's duplicating case studies. So yeah, I think that, I'd love to kind of unpack that some more another time, but I think that's what I would encourage you is that even if you don't have an audience, it's about testing the promise, and then you'll learn at Group Coach Bootcamp how to connect a surf call in detail, and I have a whole framework for that that dials that in a way that like your every single call, they're walking away going like, wow, that was helpful. I mean, I get thank you letters and thank you videos from people who are on the receiving end of a surf call, and many times it ends in a sale, not always, but also it's something that they walk away and it's useful. Paul, you and I had a surf call earlier this year. Was that a useful conversation that we had?
Yeah.
Did you raise your hand, or was that just Zoom thinking?
Well, I was reflexively raising my hand. I had my finger over the button. Yeah, no, it was very valuable. I could learn how to actually engage those people. I think I'm starting from a spot where you and I have talked about the fact that I'd like to be marketing my positive intelligence courses along with group coaching on fatherhood, finding meaning after 55, a bunch of other crazy ideas I've had. But I've already run 4 groups of those people through. So I've run like 20 people through, and I'm not leveraging what you're talking about, which is getting testimonials from them and then making sure that I'm not just passively waiting for them to recommend friends, but that I'm really trying to get them to actively be take Paul's thing, best things in sliced bread, and you gotta take that course from Paul. I said that at once, when we closed, but I haven't gone back and reminded them to help me out.
Yeah, so here I'll actually give you a free resource for that. I'll put this in the chat. This is an email template called Who Do You Know? This is just a sample of the kind of stuff I want to share. Free sample, use it, make money with it. But it's literally, this is a great email for getting referrals. And so if you have clients that you've worked with before, it's also a great email for getting sales because it looks like a referral email, but actually, just give you an example here. So it's, hey, insert first name here. Can you help me? After credibility backstory, I've opened up space in my calendar for complimentary coaching. I'd like to serve someone specific who criteria, desire, do anyone like that? Here's a real life example. Hey, can you help me? After phasing out all my one-on-one clients, so for some people, for my business, that's a credibility backstory for my customer. Because for someone who has one-on-one clients, that's aspirational. Like phasing out on one-on-one clients. I've opened up space in my calendar for complimentary coaching. I like to serve someone specific who has worked in the same industry for 10 plus years, has capped out with a full client limit or their income ceiling, would be interested in building a group coaching program based on their experience, charging $2,000 to $10,000 per client. So you can see, even though I'm asking like for a referral, I'm saying, do you know anyone like this? You can see people respond and say like, wait a minute, that's me. Like I'm that person. It's a really low threat kind of like way to get people to self-identify as your target customer. But you can take this as well for your past clients, Paul, to ask for referrals. This is a great template for that, to ask for referrals. Because if you just say, can I have a referral? It's a withdrawal in that relationship. You know what I mean? Like, and I just try to avoid that. I try to always make sure every interaction causes them to feel like it's a deposit. So even though I'm saying, do you have a referral or is this you? I'm framing it in such a way that it's helping them see it as valuable. Is that helpful?
Yeah. Well, one other follow-on question is that a lot of systems, a lot of things that you learn in any of these courses or in anything is basically there's just a lot of stuff like that looks like it's canned and it comes out of a MailChimp or something else, and it always when you're starting it, you always say, oh yeah, that sounds so easy. It's all written for me and I got all the templates and everything. But then when you get into it, you drown in the admin. So I guess what really excites me about working with you is the idea that, there is going to be admin, but I'll be going at it a step-by-step basis so that I'm not like falling behind and saying, oh, I missed this whole part of what I should have been doing while I was, scrolling through YouTube or whatever and didn't get around to doing this, the part that most of us hate, which is actually getting into all these systems.
Yeah, well, and if I could say there, the first version of my accelerator program versus the one now, the one that I teach now, I teach literally 1/3 of what I used to teach, but I have dramatically way more case studies. Because I found out that basically like I was teaching way too much, which is when people do this. I mean, this has come up a couple times in conversation. Like this is a common thing. You're like, I want to help people get everything. And I was trying to teach the whole, I was teaching about how to do this for group coaching programs, but also how to sell membership products and gateway products and books and the whole system of how this all plays together. Because I do have a framework and philosophy for that. I'm literally writing a book on it. But it was way too much. People got overwhelmed. Like you said, Paul, they always felt like they were behind. They're like, oh my gosh, there's just too many details and weeds. And so it was the beginning of this year that I stripped all of that out and said, okay, what if I just focus on the flagship product? Like just pull out all that and just say, like, what if we just focus on like step by step, week by week, take this action and you will get results. And it's really just been a total game changer for everybody. So that's been a good thing. Mike, you want to speak to that or your experience?
Yeah. So right out of the gate, John presented another email template, which, I enacted on it, I believe, right at the end of during the call.
On our lunch break at Group Coach Bootcamp is when you sent that. So we already were done with Group Coach Bootcamp when you sent the hand raiser to your list. Yeah.
And I got 38 people to immediately respond, and I'm still working off of those 38 in terms of getting them into my program. I haven't really had to move on to anybody else yet. Now that's not to say I won't, because I have a bunch of other strategies now that I'm I'm actually in the accelerator. But that alone, drew interest. And my email list has got about 10,000 people on it, so it's not small. But to target that specifically with just one hand raiser. It was before the end of the boot camp, I got those responses. So, you know, and it felt, again, I think the biggest thing is it doesn't feel sleazy. It doesn't feel gross. And I think that for me, that's a big thing, is by getting out of my own way and just following a lot of what John has been teaching. And remember, I'm still going through.
Yeah.
It definitely has helped me, you know, kind of, again, get out of my own way and test assumptions that I, you know, had already made assumptions about. So
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Mike. I appreciate that. And yeah, I mean, we've got a couple minutes left, so I want to respect everyone's time, and people have to go. I totally get it. But like, I wanted to create this live opportunity for you to ask questions, to be able to share a bit about this program and about group coaching in general. Just like, I encourage you that, like, I mean, I did it the hard way. I wish I didn't. I wish I had started out of the gate with a group coaching program. I think that I would have generated a six-figure income years sooner and with much less headache and heartache. Because the other thing that people don't tell you about launches, which is like what the whole gateway product business is built off of, like courses and that kind of stuff, is like they are so stressful. But I mean, I have run multiple six-figure launches, and I have run multi-million-dollar membership sites. And every time you're doing a launch, where you're like, okay, this launch, we're either going to make $500,000 or nothing, or somewhere in between for this like 2-week period of time. It is incredibly stressful. And it was not good for my physical or mental health. And so what I like about a group coaching program like this is like, y'all, it's December 5th. My program starts in a little over a month, and I have 3 spots left. I'm gonna sell them probably this week. I'm already planning a full week off between Christmas and New Year's with my family. That's a business that I can get excited about. Where, like, I'm helping clients get results, and it's funding my lifestyle, but it's also the kind of business where I can show up in a hoodie on a Zoom and answer questions and like make sales. It's like, that's what I want for you as well. So I hope that's encouraging. So yeah, I'd love to know, yeah, any other final questions from those of you who are here live? Remember, you have a special job if you're here live. You are speaking on behalf of everybody who couldn't be here live. If you have a question, you must ask it, because there are probably 5 people watching the replay that go, man, I wish they asked that one question.
All right, I'll throw another one in.
Okay.
You and I have talked about it before too, is that,
yeah.
Elizabeth also touched on it a little bit, is that there's the selling of soft skills. It's one thing to say, you know, I'll make you a millionaire by the end of the year. The other part is I'll make you a better human being, or I'll help you find meaning, or help you develop your relationships. And what is the proof point at the end, you know, that you counted, you know, one less time the day that you didn't bark at your spouse or something. You know, it's very hard to quantify. So that's the challenge that I'd be most focused on, I think.
Yeah, so for that, I could just say, like, that it still comes back to like an aspirational identity and a result. And a lot of the things that, like, here's something that every single person I work with struggles with, because we're teachers and we care a lot about what we have to say. Person I work with struggles with, even if they don't realize it, you're talking a lot about what I call the medicine, which is like what you see that someone has this problem and you want to help them acquire a skill or take some medicine that's going to help them get better, and all they want is the cure. And like that's a shift that sounds subtle, but it's actually dramatic. And so it's like, you know, it's Jill Savage talking about redefining your marriage and like really like starting marriage 2.0. It's Josh Straub and his, like, he has this whole identity in his group coaching program about how, like, you want to become famous at home. So like when you walk in the door, your fans come yelling and screaming happily to greet you at the door. And like that's an identity where it's like, yes, he's teaching you how to like be a more loving husband and like be a present father, but it's all about that moment when you come in the door and you're famous at home, and it's like you're on the red carpet. And he talks about that for his program, where that's where he's taken everything he teaches and put it into that. So Elizabeth, do you have a follow-up question about that or something else?
Yeah, it was related to something that was brought up a little bit earlier, and I'll speak partly for myself, but then partly for others who may have a similar question. You know, being somebody who works full time and thinking about the future, you always have the hope of, you know, oh yes, I would love to fill all of these, you know, classes or groups. How do you recommend to people, or have you had other success stories of people who have managed this alongside a full-time job, just again, not as a hobby, but just saying, hey, here's how I can leverage my skills and help other people, or who found a pathway to transition from full-time work into full-time, you know, school, essentially.
Totally. Yeah. so I think I'm trying to think like, I mean, honestly, Dustin Rickman, who I've mentioned a couple of times, is like financially my most successful client. Um, he was still working part-time as an engineer when he started this. Now that was like not full-time. He'd already kind of started to make this transition. Group coaching is what just helped him like make the transition more dramatically and be able to like hang up his hat and be like, nope, I don't do that stuff anymore. So that, I mean, it's definitely possible. I think that I don't have a ton of stories. I want more of people who've like left their day job and like come in and like this is how they did it. I've had people do that with courses and memberships, but honestly, that's harder because it's like when you're like writing emails and doing social media posts every day and like building lists and like launching and that kind of stuff, like that's really challenging. Um, the reality is you have to have some sort of autonomy of your schedule to be able to do this kind of thing. That doesn't mean that you need to have like 20 hours a week of free time. Ideally, you're teaching a program that like once it's actually started, it's somewhere between 60 and 90 minutes once a week. That you decide when it is. That's your core delivery of the program. But then of course, like to join my program and also to sell it, like you're going to have to probably spend, I would say like probably 3 to 5 hours a week to actually like get it off the ground and launch it. But to do that and get, to get a handful of clients that allows you to earn a 6-figure income, I don't know another path to do it, honestly. Because to do that, to earn that kind of income with the membership side or with courses, it takes years and massive amounts of time and energy, and the failure rate is just really high. So there's always a point where you have to like make the transition where it's out of balance, and some people would just say like just quit your job, make a leap, and I'm like, nah, I'm not gonna do that. I have 4 kids. Like there's no the leaps of faith that I take in my business. I'm just like, no, how are we gonna pay for groceries for the rest of the year? That's like part of that whole strategy. And so that's why I love this model, honestly, is because the time to money ratio is right. It allows you to make this transition with just a really tiny audience. So does that answer your question, Elizabeth? Does that help kind of paint a picture a little bit? Yeah. Paul or anyone else that's here live or Elizabeth, any other follow-up questions? Okay. Mike, I'll ask you to share some final thoughts for us. Totally on the spot. No, but what would you say to yourself if you were on this Q&A, 3 months ago before you and I started working together, and you were like on the fence of whether or not you wanted to make a leap, not only to work with me, but specifically to take group coaching in your business as a primary focus? What do you have to say to that, Mike? What would you say to that, Mike?
Sure, I would say, look, that guarantee of $10,000, or John will continue to work with you. That's huge. That is massive, because then the only person that getting in my way would be me. So get out of your way and give this a go. And knowing what I know now, I should have done that a long time ago.
That's great. Thank you, Mike. I'll leave it there. I will say, I promise I would share a link to the slides, and most people already left, so I guess I'll send that a follow-up email. But there's no fancy link for that. It's literally just me.tips/slides. No, I guess that's a pretty link, but it's not a fancy link. But that has the whole overview of the program, including all the video testimonials, if you want to look through those. But yeah, as of right now, I've got 3 spots left in my program for January for my accelerator program. I'm teaching a group coach bootcamp this Friday, where there are several people coming to that who have already expressed interest in my accelerator program. So more than likely, I'll sell out my program completely by the end of the week. So if you know you're interested, this is decision week. So if you have questions, let me know now so that we can resolve those questions. We can get you in. And if your only question is, where do I pay? Then it's sixfigureflagship.com. That's the number 6. And that lets you pay a $1,000 deposit that secures your seat, and then you're in. And we'll go from there. So thank you for watch the replay or being here live. I appreciate it. And just thank you for everybody just giving me a chance to like run this business, because I love what I do. I love helping people do this kind of stuff. And this is, I never take it for granted that I get to type words to the computer and money comes out, but by helping people make the world a better place. So keep up the good work. Thank y'all.